episode of I Feel the Podcast. I am your friend Sachi Chug, and here I have my partner
Tisha King. So we both are neuroscience. We both have a neuroscience background, and we're here to give you a scientific spin to everyday topics.
Yes, so if you did listen to our last episode, it was about feeling misaligned. How we see misalignment in our day-to-day lives, how we see it in relationships, how we see it in workplace, and how we also see it within ourselves when we're in solitude. If you did not listen to it, please go back and listen to the second episode, because the third episode, today's episode, is going to be an extension of the second episode. And what are we going to tell everybody, Tisha?
So today what we're going to be talking about is this really interesting Japanese concept that's called Ikigai, and this roughly translates back into a reason for being or a reason to live. And it's the intersection between these four major elements, which are what we love, what we are good at, what the world needs, and what we can be paid for.
Yeah, and of course we need to get a deep dive into this whole concept, because it might sound very easy to listen when we're talking about the four pillars, but definitely when you sit with yourself and you think about each of these pillars and we're trying to figure out, so what is it that I love? What can I actually do? What does the world actually need? And what can I be paid for? It's a lot of work. So in this episode, we will break it down for all of you, go through each of the steps one by one, and also give you the neuroscientific basis to each of the steps.
Yeah, we also want to mention that we are listening to you guys' comments, and so we're going to try to put a little more science into this episode than we have in the past too.
Yes, absolutely. So let's just get ready and let's dive into our very first step on how to feel more aligned.
Right, and find our Ikigai.
Yes, let's find out our Ikigai. Actually, let's just take a few seconds and think about what was the time when, Tisha, you or I were feeling like, oh, what is it that we like to do?
Right.
So is there a story that you have for all of our listeners where you were like, oh, I'm trying to figure out my Ikigai?
Yeah, definitely. So right now, I recently in the past couple of months, have been finishing up my PhD. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm in a transition where I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do for a job and where I want to live and just life in general. So yeah. I've been in deep thought about this topic because I want to find the perfect position for me that I'll be happy to work in. So right. I really am trying to find an intersection between the things that I like and what I can get paid for, because ultimately that's really important as well.
Of course. And it's interesting that you've said that, and I know it can be a very intimidating position to be in, where you are figuring out so much about your life, and then you're also figuring out, okay, so what is it that will kind of use all of your strengths,
right,
and also help you grow,
right,
and then at the same time pay you.
Exactly.
It is it's a lot of work, and it's definitely difficult to find that intersection. So I understand your position, because I was in the same position a few months ago.
Right.
So yeah, sympathies with that. But of course, that's also an opportunity to go towards where you want to go.
Right.
To be more aligned, like we talked about in our last episode.
Yeah, and it also is really nice to have the opportunity to do that, because a lot of people don't get the chance to. Some people are just in a job that they need because, we need money to live and everything. So
of course.
Everybody doesn't have the freedom to sit and kind of think about these things. But we want to highlight the importance of it and taking just a few minutes every day to think about.
I think one of the things is a lot of people think that they don't have a choice. But in my opinion, I feel you do have a choice if you start thinking about it.
Yeah, the thought process is just what's sometimes is the hardest.
It is. I think that's the most difficult part of getting to where you want to get. There was this really short clip that I was watching this morning, in fact. It was between Oprah and I don't remember that guy's name, but he's on the news channel a lot of times. And he was asking her the question that Oh, so Oprah, you have talked to so many successful people in this entire world. What is that one thing that you found which was common in all those people? And her answer was absolutely phenomenal, because what she said was, most people don't know what they want. Once you know what you want, and then you start working, and every action that you take is in alignment with what you want, you will get to where you actually want to get.
Definitely, because I know we've just talked about amongst ourselves, like the planning that goes into
Right.
when we were both in lab and everything and working. We would plan out our semesters chunks at a time, and the work that it took to do that was so annoying at the time.
Yes.
But now we realize like how helpful it
Hated
has
it.
been, how helpful it's been in planning.
Right.
Now, like outside of being in school, it has helped tremendously with just
Yeah.
being so organized and figuring out, okay, what is it exactly that I need to do this week, or where do I want to be in 3 months, and what do I need to do today to get me there?
Exactly. And planning and having that whole like laid out big plan, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges. It doesn't mean that you would not have to pivot from what's already laid out. Those things are going to come, but you'll have to adapt to them.
Right.
So it's more like that suggestion that we can actually make for ourselves, keep reminding ourselves, and of course everybody who's listening, that have a plan, but don't get married to the plan.
Right.
Things
You need to
will
have
change.
subsets to your plan as well. Be able
Right.
to shift and swivel as
Right.
need be.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about everything and tiptoeing around the conversation that we
Right.
actually want to have. So
Right.
why don't we just get started and talk about how to identify what is it that you love?
Yeah, so this would be the first step of the 4 elements of the Ikigai.
So I think, well, I'm going to talk about this, finding what you love through my story, and also see how people can kind of identify those little moments where they felt like, oh, that's something that I actually love to do. So with me, what actually happened was, well, right after my undergrad, which was, I loved biology since the very beginning. That's why neuroscience eventually. But right after my school, that was high school, 12th grade, I actually thought that I was going to become a doctor. But eventually I was like, I don't think that's really my place. As much as I loved the service, there were parts about being a doctor which I wasn't very thrilled about. So right after my bachelor's, well, I did love biology, however, so I did start my bachelor's, in biotechnology honors, and right after my bachelor's was when I got this small, job with a digital media company, and I started doing interviews and I started speaking on camera. And before that, I had been in, debates and stuff, and I loved to be on stage and speak, but I just didn't know it enough that was my passion. That is what I absolutely love to do, and that was what just lit me up. And eventually that's when I figured out, but I still started my master's in neuroscience, still hadn't completely known the fact. But I think that was halfway through my neurosciences when I was like, oh, I love mass comm and journalism. Let me just get a degree in that too.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of worked out. And that spark that I had when I was working with the digital media company at that time, it was still alive, and I was like, I still wanna do that, in my life. So that's how I found out what I was really, really passionate about. And I think what everybody needs to think of is like, what is it that genuinely makes them happy? Of course, eating pizza makes us happy. It makes everybody happy.
Food always makes me happy.
Food always makes me
Always.
happy too. Yeah.
One thing I did want to touch on that you said is, well, kind of to wrap back around to the being able to shift and pivot when you have a plan and maybe things aren't going exactly as you thought initially. So like how you plan to get your master's in biology,
Right.
and then went on to get another one. Like, I don't think there's many people that would not switch, but take on 2 masters, especially when you're in the middle of one. Yeah, so that's definitely a big kind of like shift in the initial idea that you had for that for your goal
Right.
for coming here, going to school and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty huge, and just to highlight that.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you to just highlight that. But it takes time, and it's a difficult decision to make. And just be like, okay, am I ready for it? Am I going to be committed to it? Because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I remember when you initially were telling me that you were thinking about going and starting another master's in mass comm, and you were like kind of nervous to talk to Karen as our advisor.
Yes.
You were kind of nervous to talk to Karen about it, but like looking back at it now and thinking how everything turned out, everything just went as it was supposed to go.
It really, it is.
It's
And I think
interesting to think about.
it's interesting when we talk about this, because I feel like if you're aligned with something, things eventually work out.
Yeah, you'll always come back to it. It'll find you.
It'll find you, and you'll find it, and it'll all just work out.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about the first step, which was finding your purpose. How does neuroscience kind of tie into it?
All right. So when we're in task or undergoing tasks or doing tasks that we really enjoy, things that we don't really have to think about, we can just live in the moment and kind of get in the groove of things. It actually activates this network called the default mode network. And it's a nuclei, or a collection of 3 nuclei within the brain. And it's best known for being active when a person is not focused on the outside world and the brain is at a state of wakeful rest, such as daydreaming or mindful wandering. So this topic, it kind of reminds me of the movie called Soul, which is like this Disney cartoon movie. But it kind of touches on when you are enjoying something you really love. One of the main character in the movie, he enjoys music, and when he plays music, he kind of transcends into another world or another like dimension because he just loves it so much. So that's what this kind of reminds me of, and like this network and things being activated during those times.
Yeah, is that a cue for us to go watch the movie Soul?
Yes, everybody go watch it and tell me your thoughts on it. It's such a cute movie.
It is a very cute movie, and I've watched it, and it definitely talks a lot about your emotion and finding what you actually want to do. Right. Definitely, if you have some free time, go watch the movie Soul.
Yeah, it's a cute little movie.
Yeah. Well, coming back to DMN, the default mode network that you just mentioned. So what it's actually doing is, when we're daydreaming or when we are, our mind is just free.
Right, to wander and roam and just not be focused on one particular task so intensely.
Right, so that's when, we are free to kind of think about anything and not focusing just too much on one thing helps us figure out what is it that we actually want.
Right.
Because I think with the DMN, when it's active, we are allowing ourselves to just take a moment, reflect on so many other things that that we like to do, that happen in our lives or we have done in the past. So we can revisit them and kind of think about, how did I feel when I did that?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so we also found during research about this network that is negatively correlated with a lot of attention, or parts of the brains that are activated when it requires a lot of attention. And one other interesting thing about this is that it's activated more intently during meditation. So people who are new to meditation, this network will be more active than more experienced meditators who may be more focused on like their breathing or something. They kind of have an idea of what the goals that they're trying to get out of meditation, whereas if you're more new, your mind is still kind of like wandering all over the place, and you can't really focus your thoughts so well because you're still a beginner. Right.
Well, I'm not sure if I clearly got that. So it's basically, if you are an experienced meditator, at that point your DMN is less active.
Right.
And if you are a novice, you're trying to meditate, which a lot of us are, even I am.
Me too.
Yeah. So, and that's the time still, because of course there are so many thoughts that keep coming to our mind. We're trying to rest, but still, oh, I wish I could just decorate it that way. That's what happens to me.
Exactly.
I just keep thinking about random things. And that's when, okay, so our DMN is actually super active.
Right.
At that time. As we keep on meditating more and more, we get more focused and the DMN activity starts kind of reducing.
Exactly.
But we still can't really say having high DMN activity is a great thing or having low DMN activity is a great thing. I mean, it's just that one center, and there's so much research which is kind of going on about that one center, but we do know that when we are doing self-reflection, our DMN is what actually gets activated.
Right. Yeah, so all of this is still an active area of research, so there aren't set ties to the network being more active or less active during a broad range of activities.
Right. And I still think whenever we are talking about brain and brain research, there's always so much that needs to be found out. And what region does what and how does it correlate with other regions. So it's always, I think the brain's always all over the place.
Yeah, definitely.
It's difficult to kind of give very strong notions about, oh, this is what it does, that's how it does it. It's kind of very difficult to figure out the brain in general, and of course the brain's what makes us, so figuring out ourselves is difficult.
Exactly, because one region of the brain can do one thing in humans and do the exact opposite in another animal.
Other animals.
So it's really hard to tie one particular behavior or action to any center, but generally we like to have an idea of what's going on in the brain.
Yeah. So I think now at this point, when we have discovered, okay, so what is it that I love to do? The second step is figuring out what is it that we're actually good at. What is it that you are actually good at?
So what happens if we have trouble identifying what we're good at?
I mean, I think there are some cues as well from the outside that we get. I mean, of course, you might think that, oh, I'm really good at singing, but maybe you're just terrible at singing. Maybe you love to sing, but you're not a really good singer. That's possible. That really is possible. And that happens to a lot of people. But I think one indicator is also like when people compliment you about something, if they tell you that, oh, you're really good at doing this, you're really good at dancing, you're really good at speaking, you're really good at some of the other things which are very identifiable.
Cooking.
You're really good at cooking. Yeah, it could be really anything.
Yeah.
That, you can actually incorporate in your day-to-day life to give you that joy that we all actually are looking for every day.
Right. Yeah, it's really important to take the time to identify those things and listen when people do compliment you if you can't really figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
It can be difficult to do.
I have seen that some people are really creative. So if they put a little more of their energy towards being creative, it could be, being creative making paintings, being creative designing something, being creative just in the way you dress up. I think if you put that energy, like we've spoken about, in those things which actually give us pure joy, it can help us live our lives better.
Yeah, this also what just popped into my head. I was thinking that it's also important to give compliments to people. Sometimes when you're walking around and you see someone, you like something about them, and then you just don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. So I'm like, that could just, I guess not unintentionally help someone along their journey as well. Of maybe they're having a bad day and you like their outfit and they had no idea that they put together a really good outfit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think we should get in the habit of giving compliments to people because it does really make their day. I mean, thinking about if, we get a compliment, I get a compliment, I feel really good.
Yeah, it makes you feel so much better.
Yeah, so I think that's just a part of being a good person, being self-aware, and also acknowledging what's great in others. When you can appreciate what's great in others, you can eventually appreciate what's great in you as well.
Right, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously I think a part of appreciating others and appreciating ourselves is also loving ourselves.
Definitely, we have to love ourselves.
We do have to love ourselves, and even identifying all of these things, what do we love, and everything, it comes from loving ourselves and self-love and having that awareness. So I think all of these elements are super important when we're trying to figure out what we love.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. One other thing I think that people might find difficulty with these first two elements is, what if what we love and what we're good at aren't the same things? So like, for example, with me, I usually will do my own hair. I hate doing hair. I hate doing other people's hair. I just do it out of
But
convenience.
you're good at.
Right. I think I'm good at it, but I don't like it.
That's interesting to think of. You're good at something, but you don't like to do it. Duh.
I guess it maybe just consider other things at that point.
Yeah.
Because
I think there are certain things which we all need to do out of necessity, and there are certain things which actually bring us that pure joy. Having that demarcation, in a way, being aware that, okay, these are the things I'm good at, but I do them out of necessity. These are the things which I'm good at, but I actually love to do them. So maybe put in more time
and effort
in that basket where I know that I'm good at this, I love to do it, let me do more of this,
right,
instead of the
the
other
latter.
basket. Yes.
Now we have a good idea of what we love, what we're good at, and how is this going to impact our brains.
So I think, okay, we have talked about the reward center so many times because it's actually involved in so many things, and little did we know. So while we were doing this research on how is the one activity which we are really good at, when we do it multiple times, how does it impact our brains, it's again, lights up that reward center, and that dopamine rush happens and the serotonin rush happens, and when all of these hormones are present in our body at a higher level, of course we will be feeling great about something that we do. So definitely, I think the tip would be, next time you're doing something, take a second, feel the feeling, think about, how does this make me feel? And it's very interesting that I even do that with people, because when I meet someone and I've departed from that person and I'm home, maybe like 15-20 minutes after I've met the person, I'll just sit with myself and think like, oh, how did I actually feel when I was with that person? Did I have good feelings? Did I have neutral feelings? Or did I have negative feelings? So if I'm going towards the good, I'll of course try and hang out more with the person. If I'm going towards negativity, then I'll be like, uh-oh, my
Maybe
time's
not.
precious. No, I'm not gonna hang out
Makes
much
sense.
with that person. If it's neutral, then I'll be like, I see you when I see you.
I've never really considered it in the aspect of people. I'm definitely in the aspect of, actions or things, but I've never really thought about it like meeting new people and thinking about how they make you feel once you've departed from them, and if you should
Right.
continue or not continue to hang out.
Yeah, I think that's something that I also picked up just last year. I was listening to one of Josh Shetty's podcasts. I just love him. So that's when, I picked up that habit. And I think it's important that we have something like a marker in place for us to identify things and just take a second to feel our feelings and be self-aware of what we are feeling, and then act according to what
Those
our mind
feelings.
and our body, when comes together,
It's
says
telling
to
you.
us.
Yeah. Okay, so finally, for the third element, we need to think about what the world needs. So we want to consider our communities, society, what's missing, what gaps we can fill with what we have, with what we love, and what we're good at. Take those two things and put them into the world so that we can contribute to the community and figure out our best way to find alignment.
That intersection,
Right.
in a way. And that the story that kind of comes to my mind when you just mentioned the third point, determining what the world actually needs. So in the first step, we had identified, I know you also love to talk to people and get that knowledge out there, I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast. So so I think a big part of determining what the world actually needs was, of course, we figured out, okay, we love to be on camera, we love to share the knowledge, we love biology, we love neuroscience and everything. And then although we know a lot of people are doing podcasts these days, but we also needed to know that we bring out something interesting.
Right, something different.
Something different than
Something
what's
unique.
not been done. Don't shy away from doing it when you know that you're good at it.
And also, even if there are a lot of people doing it, you as a person, you have your personality, everything. You are definitely going to add something unique to it that nobody else is able to do. So even if you feel like it's oversaturated, obviously something is working if everybody is trying to, find success in that avenue or is finding success in that avenue. So I wouldn't definitely not be afraid to just jump in, and you honestly, what can you lose by just trying?
Yeah, you've got to really go with what makes those juices flow in you,
Right.
and what actually brings you so much joy. And I think a great indicator is also when work doesn't feel like work.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's what everybody is looking for or striving to find as far as a career or a job. Just something you can do where you really love coming to work every day, and you would do it for free because you just enjoy doing it that much. Like, you obviously enjoy the money as well, but just the action of whatever task it is, you really truly enjoy it.
I was just about to say, like, don't do everything for free. Okay, because you do need money at the end of the day. So harness those strengths in you so you can actually make money off of them.
Yeah, be your best advocator as well.
Yes, stand up for yourself. Well, these are all the things which are kind of popping from here and there.
Yeah,
not directly related to the topic, but related to the topic. So yeah, just determine what the world needs and act on what you actually love, and bring that intersection together so you can actually make that happen and create the difference that you want to create.
Yeah, so now basically at the end of this episode, we're perfectly aligned.
I think we are. Yeah, so we know that, okay, these are the things that I love. We know these are the things I'm good at.
And now we just need to figure out what the world needs, mix them all together,
and then take action.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great part. We can know everything, but not take an action. Like if we didn't start the podcast.
Right. We have this great plan set. Now we need to implement it.
Exactly. So just go for it. Just do what you love.
You have nothing to lose.
Exactly. The world needs more of you. So just go out there, do your thing. Be happy.
Do your thing. I like that.
Yeah. All right. So now we have finally come to the end of this episode. We really hope that you enjoyed listening to this. And also, we want all your comments. And really, I'm hoping that you do implement these 3 steps in your life and finally, work towards what you really love, what you really want to do in this life, because really life is short. So yeah, keep all of your comments in the comment section. Tell us what you loved about this episode. Tell us what are the things that you feel like we need to improve on. We would love to listen to whatever you all have to say and whatever you feel. That's why we have I Feel.
Definitely. So reminder to follow us on social media, Instagram at IFeel_podcast, on YouTube if you want to watch the video at I Feel Podcast, and also on Apple and Spotify. Follow us on there too. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all the good things.
Yes, and we'll see you next week.